First the controversy and then the confusion. Masarat Alam's release on Saturday led to a storm of protest both in Parliament and in the media. Now, however, there's confusion over how it happened. It seems there's more to this development than we at first found out. With me to explain and clarify why Masarat Alam was released and who knew what and when is Kashmir's Education Minister and PDP Chief Spokesperson, Naeem Akhtar. Mr. Akhtar, let me start with a simple question. There's a lot of confusion why Masarat Alam was released. So let's start by clarifying the situation. Letters exchanged in February between the Home Department of the Kashmir government and the District Magistrate Jammu state that the decision to renew Alam's detention when it recently expired was not confirmed by the government within 12 days as required by the Public Safety Act. Hence, as a result, his detention became what's called non-est and therefore he had to be released. Is that the main reason why Masarat Alam was released?
Obviously, that is a major reason, because there have been orders on this from the Honorable Supreme Court of India, and which have also been quoted in that letter which you are citing here, the letter from the Home Department to the District Magistrate Jammu. It also says that the Supreme Court of India has issued orders about this gentleman that they shall not come into force for a period of 1 week from the date of communication of the order to enable the detainee to pursue appropriate legal remedies. Then it goes on to say that it's non-est in the eyes of law, and then it says, however, a fresh order can be issued for detention of detainee after following the procedure prescribed in the Act and directions of the Honorable Supreme Court. So it could not have been otherwise. The only course available for the government in this case was to set him free.
Now, all of this happened during Governor's rule when the Governor was reporting directly to the Home Ministry in Delhi. Am I right when I say that?
That is technically correct. But my point is whether it was at all necessary to do so. Because Jammu and Kashmir is having a legally elected government now, and it had a legally instituted government under the governor as well. So both governor in rule and the chief minister in position, both these are responsible enough
Quite right.
to take care of the security of the state.
I'm interrupting you because I want to clarify something which is very important, and what I want to clarify is this, that this failure to confirm his detention within 12 days as is required under the Public Safety Act, as the result of which his detention became non-est and he had to be released. This particular development happened during Governor's rule when in fact the state was and the governor were reporting directly to the Home Minister in Delhi. Can you confirm that critical point for me?
Yes, this letter is dated 4th of Feb.
Which is when the governor was in power.
That was a time, yeah.
Now, the third thing which follows from this is that if this happened when the governor was in power and before the PDP-BJP government took over, then when the Prime Minister yesterday says that he was not aware or he wasn't consulted, he's either not being fully accurate or he's saying something that's very perplexing. Because if it happened when Jammu and Kashmir was under governor's rule, then Kashmir was also under direct Delhi's rule and the PM should have known.
I would say perhaps the Prime Minister has not been correctly advised on this. And the fault lies somewhere else, because neither the Prime Minister is supposed to know all these details. You know, Jammu and Kashmir has been a place where you have been taking people into jail, you have been throwing them out, you have been releasing them, taking them again. This has been a process of management all through the past 6 decades. And I don't see the merit of a Prime Minister being informed about every detail. But
possibly.
Why was this uproar?
Let me, Mr. Akhtar, stop you again. You're making an important point. You're not saying that the Prime Minister was inaccurate. You're simply saying that the Prime Minister was wrongly advised. In other words, those officials who should have given him the full picture didn't do so, as a result of which, when he spoke yesterday in Parliament, he didn't have the benefit of the full picture. That's what you're saying.
Perhaps that's true.
In the light of what you've just told me, how do you respond to comments both from politicians and from some television channels that say that the PDP has behaved like traitors when they released Masarat Alam, that the Chief Minister Mufti Saeed is a pro-Pakistan Chief Minister? How do you respond to those comments?
Karan, I am a fan of your Devil's Advocate program. This time I would like to behave a devil and ask a question to the advocate and through you the entire country. If this similar case had cropped up in Chhattisgarh or Junagadh or Hyderabad or whatever, Madras or wherever, and there was a person by any name, A, B, C, D, and the Supreme Court had set him free, the High Court had set him free not once, not twice, not but 1 dozen times, and then the state was still keeping him in custody. Where would the sympathies of our great nation lie? Would everybody in this great country be on the other side, or would we all have behaved like the Congress did, the BJP did, Mayawati joined in, because basically some media channels were trying to compete for their TRPs, and merely for that the entire country was taken hostage on an issue on which this country would have behaved entirely differently. But since this was a particular person from Jammu and Kashmir, of a particular description, of a particular image, and that's why the entire country is now asking, no, keep this fellow inside the jail, even if the Supreme Court says so. But if there was a law that the Supreme Court writ does not apply to Jammu and Kashmir, one would have felt quite obliged to do the same.
That's a very fair point you're making, Mr. Akhtar. What you're saying is that the response from some sections of the media, some television channels in particular, and the response from the entire political spectrum is in fact motivated by the fact that they don't understand Kashmir. Worse, they may have a bias against Kashmir.
Karan, for a person like me who believes in the idea of India, for a person who follows Mufti Muhammad Saeed, who is so passionate about the idea of India, for me we are perhaps living in very dangerous times. When somebody is asking a reporter to file a report and the entire country goes crazy on that, we certainly need to look into this.
I understand what you're saying. Let me now, however, come to a couple of problems that arise as a result of what you've told me was the real reason why Masarat Alam was released. Now, repeatedly on Sunday and Monday, I heard you yourself say on TV channels, in particular on NDTV many times, that Masarat Alam was released because the release of political prisoners is envisaged under the agenda for alliance that you have drawn up with the BJP. You never once quoted what you've just explained as the real reason. You went to something else as the explanation.
I did not, because there are both reasons to it. This is a technical reason. This is a reason, but we have to look to this problem beyond this. Jammu and Kashmir is a place that has come to join its lot.
Mr. Akhtar, I'm going to interrupt you. The truth is, this is not a technical reason. This is the legally binding reason. If you had not released him because his detention had become non-est, if you had not released him because the requirements of the court demand that you do, you would have A, been acting illegally, and B, you would have been in contempt of the court. So this is not a technical reason. This is the real binding reason. Yet on Sunday and Monday, you never once cited this reason. You kept talking about your personal interpretation of the agenda for alliance, which the BJP either doesn't share or disputes. So you went to the weakest reason rather than the strongest.
This reason does not take away from that overriding reason, the other reason, because we are in alliance with the, we have preferred to be with the BJP.
You put the weaker reason rather than the stronger. The stronger is a legally binding one. You didn't mention it. You mentioned it today. The weaker reason, which is based on an interpretation which the BJP doesn't share, is the one you were handing out to people on Sunday and Monday. Why did you do that? It was a mistake, surely.
We left it for the media to autocorrect itself.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure if you mean that tongue in cheek, but I'll take that as your explanation. I'm not sure whether everyone else will be convinced by it.
That's a compliment to you. That's a compliment, not my explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Akhtar. Now, the second problem that arises directly out of what you just explained to me why Masarat Alam is released is this. That letter of 4th February, which establishes that Alam's detention had become non-est, also says, and actually you referred to it yourself a moment ago, it says a fresh order can be issued for detention of détenu after following the procedures prescribed in the Act and directions of the Honorable Supreme Court. Now, given that Alam is considered a seditionist and a national security risk by your ally, the BJP, and by many people across the political spectrum, why did you not immediately renew his detention? You had the possibility and the opportunity, you had the power to do so, but you didn't. Why?
Here, I'll let you know that here I am giving you the Supreme Court order on Mr. Masarat Alam's petition. This order has been issued in 2013 by Justice Loda.
What does it say?
And Justice Chalmeshwar.
What does it say, sir? We're running out of time.
It says that it's observed. The government has, meanwhile, he has gone to the Supreme Court nth time. In this case, Supreme Court has repeatedly quashed this. And this time when he again goes to the Supreme Court, the Honorable Court is informed that we have quashed already, we have withdrawn the PSA order. Then the Supreme Court disposes it off. It also says, having regard to the above, nothing survives in the writ petition and it is disposed of accordingly. However, it is observed that if any fresh detention order is issued by the government of Jammu and Kashmir, with respect to Masarat Alam Bhatt, the same shall not come into force for a period of 1 week from the date of communication of the order to enable him.
No, I understand that. Mr. Akhtar, I'm stopping you. All the Supreme Court did was say it won't come into force for 1 week. You could have still issued it, which you didn't do. Why?
I'll come to that. I'll come. This man has been in detention for 53 months. All the reasons that the state had given in previous orders have been quashed. Now this fellow has been in detention for 53 months. Could we have an additional reason to put him behind bars this time and cite that as a reason while he was in our detention?
Okay, so what you're saying to me is you took a conscious political decision not to renew the detention because he'd been in detention for 53 months, because the Supreme Court had ruled as you quoted, and because you couldn't find, and this is most important, you couldn't find an additional reason for detaining him. That's what you're saying. You couldn't find an additional reason.
Yes, obviously.
But let me put this to you. This is a sensitive issue, as you knew, with your ally, the BJP. If you were therefore going to take a political decision of your own not to renew it, i.e. his detention, because you couldn't find an additional reason for doing so, should you not have consulted your partner? Should you not have informed the BJP rather than leave them to find out by surprise?
is that I'm not saying that we should not. We are in alliance. But is this such a great big decision if a particular channel had not reported this? Was it at all a great reason?
Well, you're being somewhat unfair to the government when you suggest that it's because of a particular channel.
Congress, sir, the Congress which has made so much of, tried to make so much of capital out of it. Come back to the key issue.
Mr. Akhtar, the key issue is this. You were taking a conscious political decision not to renew a man's detention when you knew that your ally regards him A, as a separatist and a seditionist, B, as a national security risk. Should you not have consulted them? Should you not have picked up the phone and spoken to them?
We are there with the understanding. Look, we have said that we are a North Pole, South Pole alliance. But we have joined hands with BJP in the hope and in the belief that together we'll do two things. One, we'll bridge the emotional gap between Kashmir and the rest of the country.
How do you do that? Here you didn't act together. Here you acted unilaterally. You used the word together, but you weren't together in taking this decision. That's why I repeat, given that they regard Alam as a seditionist, should you not have consulted them?
The Chief Minister, who is the Home Minister as well, Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, and who happens to be a person who has remained the Home Minister of India as well. And if we cannot trust him with such decisions, which is a routine decision if this had not become a media event. This was a very routine. There have been in Kashmir's history. You have brought, just a second. You have brought Sheikh Abdullah after facing sedition charges. You have brought him as Chief Minister without facing an election. You have this Mr. Sajad Lone, who was like Mr. Masarat Alam only two years back. And today he is a minister, he is my ministerial colleague. I am happy that we have engaged him in the process. That is what we are trying to do with every separatist.
So the message you're sending the BJP is trust the judgment of Mufti Sahab. He's not just your ally, he's been a former Home Minister of India. And
it will be a sad day. It will be a sad day for this country if a person like Mufti Muhammad Saeed is suspect.
Can I put this to you?
His bona fides are suspect. And then I think we have not done enough in Kashmir that one person
can I put this to you?
Neck out.
Mr. Akhtar, can I put this to you? This issue has obviously created a controversy. It's obviously annoyed your ally in a way that I will accept you didn't think would happen. With hindsight, will you now accept it was a mistake not to have consulted the BJP? With hindsight, accept that.
I will not say this was a mistake, but I think there is a scope for better coordination.
You accept that? There is scope for better coordination?
Yes.
And would you also say that better coordination in this matter would have avoided the embarrassment and the controversy? Will you accept that as well?
We hope so, but we hope so.
One last question. There is speculation in the papers that actually the PDP is planning more releases. Sometimes Ashik Hussain Fakhtu is mentioned. Sometimes a whole list of other people are mentioned. Are you planning more releases?
If you are trying to give Jammu and Kashmir a special law that if anybody is set free by the High Court or by the Supreme Court, he should still be in jail, then so be it. But we won't be a party to that.
But when you consider these further releases, because your answer suggests you're going ahead, even though you haven't said it in so many words. So when you consider these further releases, will there be better coordination, to use your language, between you and the BJP?
It will be certainly better coordinated, but let me have a word on this. These people who are separatists, who don't believe in the Constitution of India, who don't believe in the finality of accession like I do or Mufti Saeed does, What is the message for them? We are treating them as part of this country. We are treating them as citizens of this country. If they go to the judicial system of this country and that system gives them a relief, should I be helping them in benefiting from that or not?
That's a very clear message, and it's one that I hope the BJP hears, because it puts into perspective your position. It's one I hope the media hears as well, so they don't misunderstand you. But I will repeat, however, that you do believe that better coordination would have helped in the Masarat Alam case, and you have said there will be better coordination if there are to be future releases as well. Naeem Akhtar, thank you very much for speaking to me. And there we end this particular episode. If you have been, thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night.